Hello, I'm Chuck Wolf, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolf Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people in their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching.
This is Chuck Wolf. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. It's just 12 noon, just a bit past, and I'm pleased to have all of you who are regular listeners tuning in, and it's a pleasure to be with you again at the first of the month, the first Wednesday of the month, that is. And I'm on the air from the first and second Wednesdays of the month, and the show is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. So how are you all feeling today? I hope you're feeling well, and I hope that life is treating you good. I know there's a lot of people that like to call in and talk about issues that they might have, and I've always come to the show prepared to talk about a few topics. I like to also introduce new listeners. If you happen to be just driving by and tuned into WPKN because you love the station, you love to listen, and you're just listening by happenstance, you happen to be listening for the first time on a Wednesday at 12 noon on one of the first or second Wednesdays, then you've tuned into the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I'm Chuck Wolf, and I have an expertise in something called emotional intelligence, and my show's called the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And what that means is that sometimes people, particularly smart people, when they're stuck, they're often stuck because they're basically dealing with situations that are emotionally charged. Good critical thinkers, excellent problem solvers, they're not usually stuck when something's going on where they feel that they have controls over the situation and they understand the content of the situation and they're able to pretty much get to the root cause and determine what's causing the problem and then find ways to fix it. That's what people are good at that are smart, good critical thinkers, right? And we have good critical thinkers and smart people that listen to WPKN all the time. I know that. And those of you that are watching at home, because some of you watch me on TV because I filmed this show, you can watch me on YouTube. If you go to Simsbury Community TV on the YouTube, you can then look up Emotion Roadmap and you will find me there. You can also find previous shows on SoundCloud or iTunes or Stitcher because we're podcasts these days. And so if you want to listen to other shows from the past, you're welcome to listen there too, in case you like what you hear today. Today's show is about helping you deal with situations that might be problematic, confusing, causing you uncertainty, doubt, stress, and you're looking for some help. And you're really unclear about how to get that help. And my show is about providing that kind of help for you. And the way that I do that is I listen to you talk to me. I have you call into the show, and you tell me about what your situation is. And after listening to you for a bit, I ask you to tell me some key things. And this is the way I help critical thinkers, really good critical thinkers, get unstuck. What I do is I help you to understand that a lot of times, if we can focus exclusively on the emotions that are in play, in other words, when you're experiencing some strong confusion, a sense of confusion or self-doubt, you're worried about escalation with another person or a group of people because of something you want to raise that's controversial and it's going to generate conflict or even crises for some, then you really are wondering how to do this intelligently and how to use emotion effectively. Only we don't have tools for that. Most of us don't anyway. And so the way this show works is I try to educate people by dealing with real life problems. Your problems. So if I can help you by using my Emotion Roadmap, which is this idea of sometimes the emotions you're feeling are a problem in themselves, and I ask you to think about, well, what are you feeling? And what would you like to feel? What would actually be ideal to feel? And if there's someone that's key to what you're trying to get done, either he or she or they, what are he or she or they feeling? And what would be ideal for him or her or them to feel? So that's the key part of this, is to understand that if you are stuck and it's something to do with strong emotions and you want to do something going forward that you feel is going to be helpful and you want to feel hopeful that you've got a plan that makes sense, then call the show. Because when you call the show, you're going to get some relief, because typically I'm really helpful to people in understanding how to deal with the emotions they're experiencing, looking at those emotions, thinking about whether those emotions are helpful or not, and then helping you to think about what would be ideal to feel, and then helping you to create a strategy, a plan to move you from one emotion that isn't helpful to an emotion that would be. So what would you be calling in about then? If you're unclear and new to the show, it might be, I'm having some difficulty at work. Now, it might be difficulty with a boss. It might be a difficulty with someone that's a teammate of yours. It might be somebody that works for you. It might be somebody that's just someone that you find that you have to be in groups with at different points in time that you don't work that closely with, but somehow you're having a problem dealing with them. And you want to do better. You want to do better with them. Or you want to just not feel uncomfortable at work. And you want to change that circumstance. That's one of the things you can call about. Because again, we'll explore the emotions in play. We'll help you to figure out what's going on emotionally, what you can do about it emotionally, and how to make for a different outcome, a far better outcome than what you're currently experiencing. So that should give you some insights about what the show is about. At work, what about at home? What if there are some things at home that you're struggling with? What are some of the things that perhaps at home that you could be calling about? Well, we've had people call in about introducing a new girlfriend. A divorced father one time called in about trying to introduce his new girlfriend to his children. One was a daughter who was 17, and another was a son who was 21. And they were meeting the girlfriend for the first time, and he wanted to get that right. Called in about that. I've had people call in about situations between spouses, between partners who are struggling because something about the relationship has soured, and they want to find some way to turn it back around. They want to save it. I've also found people sometimes who want to end relationships and are struggling with how to do it gracefully or how to just get it done. Sometimes people are worried about violence or, emotional abuse. Sometimes people struggle with siblings or with children or with aging parents. There's all kinds of things that are emotionally charged in our lives. We don't often think about them as being emotionally charged, but when we're stuck, I can almost guarantee that if you are stuck right now with a situation in your life that you are uncertain about, stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling? And is what I'm feeling helpful? And if it's not helpful, what would be ideal to feel? And how can I possibly get me to move from what I am feeling, which is not helpful, to something that's ideal? How do I do that? Well, that's an emotion roadmap process that I will introduce to you during the course of the show, if I get the calls that generate those kind of conversations. Now, the beauty of the show is that when people call in with an emotional situation that's upsetting to them, and I can help them, I explain as I'm helping them how this emotion roadmap works. And here's the key questions involving the emotion roadmap. The conversation will start with you this way. First, I will ask you, tell me a bit about your situation. And when I say tell me a bit about your situation, some situations are somewhat convoluted, very complicated, and take a while to tell. So that might be a 15 to 20-minute phone call. But most phone calls, I can really understand your situation within just a few minutes. And then I ask you to tell me, okay, now I've got the context. Now I don't want any more about your situation because I got that. But what I want to know is, how are you feeling personally? How do you want to feel? If you could make magic happen, how would you want to feel? What feeling would be ideal for you? Once I finish with that, I ask you to tell me about any other people that are key to what's going on. And when I understand who's key, I then ask you to tell me about him, her, or them in terms of what he or she or they are feeling. And then I ask you the same question about them. What would be ideal for that person to feel? And then we strategize. We talk about what would it take to change those feelings. And then when we pick several strategies that sound like they're logical and make some sense, and this is a logical, common sense approach to dealing with emotional issues, which I think is one of the attractions about the emotion roadmap itself. It's kind of a rational way to think about emotional stuff. Well, at that point, we ask the question, are you really able to do the strategy we're talking about? Do you have the competency, the ability actually to perform in the way that we're talking about? Let's say you say yes to that. The second question is, well, are you then willing to do what we talked about? Because as crazy as it sounds, even if you have a strategy that will turn around a situation where you're currently stuck, sometimes attitudinally we just won't go there. One of the situations that causes me to say that is that I've known people that sometimes know that if they cry in a certain situation, they'll get their way. They'll get what they need from the person that doesn't want to hear them crying, because it tends to be a way to get them to do certain things. And yet they don't want to resort to crying. They're not comfortable crying. They just want to do it in ways that are smarter or better than that. Okay, well, if that's true, then that strategy won't work for you because you're not willing. So nothing's forced here. We look at what's possible, what makes some sense, what feels right to you, and what are you really able and willing to do. And in doing that and exploring that and explaining it as I'm helping you individually, everyone listening is learning about how the emotion roadmap works. And my goal, I've been doing this now, this is the 10th year that I'm on the radio at WPKN. It's a gift. I really appreciate it. As much as I'm a volunteer and giving of my time here, I really appreciate the opportunity to be helpful to people. One of the things that I care deeply about is trying to make a positive difference in people's lives. And so I love doing this show, and I love when I can help somebody. And I also love the idea that while people are listening, that they're also learning how they might help themselves and help the people in their lives that they're close to, that they want to introduce this concept of an emotion roadmap to. I'm always looking for new ways to find different vehicles for exploring how do I get this emotion roadmap out to more people. The radio is one of the best ways I know. Not only because I have the opportunity to be on the show from 12 to 1, the first and second Wednesday of each month, but also because it's podcast. And so people can listen to it at any time. And also because it's on YouTube and people can watch me if they want to see it on their computers or on their TVs if they have access to YouTube. So it's a nice way to try and introduce what I believe is a concept for helping people to be smarter about how they manage their own emotions and how they deal with their relationships and the emotions that are part of those relationships with other people. I think the world will be a far better place if we can learn how to deal with the emotions that sometimes just cause us to behave in really inappropriate ways. There's certainly all kinds of issues on display in the world today. I don't know if you want to talk about any of those. What's been riveting is the Kavanaugh nominations and all the different, people who have accused Judge Kavanaugh of different, inappropriate ways of behaving. Tremendous amount of emotional upheaval around that. There's also just a lot of good news in terms of the economy. If you're paying attention to some of the things that are happening in the economy, there's a trade deal with Canada. I was listening to some farmers talk about the impact in Connecticut on agriculture and how positive the new deal will be, assuming it gets approved by Congress, that has just been negotiated between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. It's a tremendous change, I guess, in the way dairy will be sold across the border. And that's a good thing for Connecticut and farmers. So I'm pleased about that. Also, great job numbers again today. So there's things where you might be uplifted about certain economic news. You might be depressed about the news around what's happening with the judge from either side of the aisle. People are pretty upset, it seems, across the board. Or you might have something that's just going on in your own life where you feel like you want to do something that is really important that you want some help with and you want to call in about that. So let me give you those kinds of topics you can call in about, anything you like. The show is about helping you to take the wheel and control how you feel. I'll be introducing the roadmap to everybody that calls and trying to be helpful and explaining it so everybody's learning as I'm talking to you when you pick up the phone and make that call. And by the way, I'm on the air from 12 to 1. And so, or actually 5 minutes to 1. So if you want to call and you want some help and you don't want to be rushed, you want to call early in the show. So I'm going to give you the number. If you're thinking about calling, pick the phone up, make the call. You won't be sorry. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Say it one more time and I'll give you a minute to call in if you like. 203-336-9756. Hi, this is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air. Who am I talking to?
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Al.
Hey, Al, your radio might be turned up. If it is, could you turn it down?
No, it's off.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Completely off. Yeah.
Okay. I can go ahead. Thanks for the call, Al. How can I help you?
Well, I guess my biggest anxiety, and it comes on early in the morning, and my self-talk is horrible, and because of it, I have trouble focusing, and I can't seem to stay on track with my tasks. And it's really strange, unless I'm doing something for someone else. But if I have to do things to take care of myself, I fall apart. I don't necessarily emotionally fall apart, but I can't follow through. And then, I get depressed or have terrible anxiety. And then like an OCD comes over, or not OCD, like an ADD. And I end up like trying to do too many things at once. And it's exhausting.
So what you're saying, and this starts every day, first time?
It's pretty much every day, yeah. Unless I'm doing something for someone else, and then it's laid out for me what I have to do, and it's different.
So if you have a commitment to someone else, you get up in the morning and you tackle it without any of this anxiety creeping in. But if it's something for yourself, or if it's not clear, maybe it's a little fuzzy about what you do for yourself, but you're going to try and do some things for you, then anxiety creeps in and takes over and causes you to have attention deficit disorder or something akin to that where you can't focus. Sound right?
Exactly right.
Okay, so you're feeling anxious in the morning when you wake up with just something to do for yourself. And how do you want to feel? What would be ideal when you wake up in the morning, do you think, to feel differently?
Ideal would be to wake up in the morning and not have worry, or really not to be worried about how things were going to work out, or whether or not I was going to be able to wake up and feel good about waking up. I feel dread when I wake up.
Okay, so when you wake up, you again, you repeated, you feel dread when you wake up. So you want to feel good when you wake up, even if you've got something just for yourself to do that day.
Yes,
right?
I do a lot of contract work, and if I'm hired and I'm out working, then I don't have to focus on I guess repairing my own life. It's easier. But if I have to line things up and make things work for me, it's across the board anxiety ridden.
Okay, so I've got the context. I'm pretty clear about what's going on for you. And then I just want to say to everybody else that's listening now is that as soon as you offer something like this up, I can't believe that everybody who's listening to you doesn't want to just tell you, hey, you're already working really well when you're doing something for somebody else, and then they have some solutions just jump into their head that they want to offer. So I don't want to do that, because I've learned that if I just jump in and say, here's what you should do, Al, chances are you've been living with this for a while. You already thought about that. So let me just ask you, you've been dealing with this for a long time. What have you already tried to do that hasn't worked? And what are you thinking about that might work if you've got anything?
Well, I have tried so many times to schedule or to keep calendars I mean, all I can do is to just keep on trying again in the hopes that this system or this next system will work. Or that's all I have is to, I've gone pretty much from paper to digital in the last 8 or 10 years. So that transition was excruciating. But now that I've done it, at least I can manipulate that and get it. But it's that's what I've done over and over again, was gotten up and tried it again. And it's heavily depressing.
All right, okay. So
do it another time.
All right, so
I'm 57.
All right, let me stop you and just say I want to focus on: is there anything that you've tried that's ever worked?
Well, if I can get really, really busy, then I can almost not fall into the focus of it. But it's because scheduling and planning are so poor, it's inevitable. So unless I beat myself to a place where I feel like I've accomplished something, then I can get through the day and I feel okay. But I tell you, I get a lot of stuff done, but it doesn't matter. It's still, I'm going to beat myself up, and the person I need to get away from is me.
Okay. So just listening to you, now I got a little more knowledge about you and some of your past experiences. And so I have a little history that says there's some messages in there that you got from somebody at some point in time that you aren't good enough. And
I get that, yeah.
And you keep playing that. That's the self-talk, and you keep punishing yourself for that. And what I find is that sometimes the self-talk that we have, when we want to change it, I mean, it sounds like to everybody listening, everybody's saying, well, damn it, why don't you just change what you're saying to yourself, Al? I mean, that should be pretty simple, except it isn't because of the feelings that are driving that self-talk.
Yeah, I don't think everyone's saying that. I don't think I'm alone in this, and I think everyone's probably saying, oh, my God, I can't believe you put it to words.
Okay, you think a lot of people have this?
I walk into a room, and I can tell the people that are freaking out.
Oh, okay, all right. So you think there's a lot of people that are...
I'm not alone.
Are in this with you.
You're going to get calls.
Okay, all right. But the question is, how do you change the self-talk?
Yeah.
Right? And you can't change the self-talk, I don't believe, without understanding what feelings are driving it. Does that make sense?
Without understanding what feelings?
Yeah, in other words, our self-talk comes from our feelings. Our feelings are of inadequacy. That's what I'm sensing. There's a sense of inadequacy that's driving you to keep saying this stuff to yourself, even though you know it's unhealthy. In other words, it's pretty simple. Just listen to you. I could tell you to have, self-affirming messages. Wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, "I am lovable. I am capable. I am worthy. I am worthwhile. I am valuable. I am respectable." And you can.
I've done that.
That's what I mean. That sounds like it should work, except it's not really touching the message that was in there in the first place. So sometimes, without going through long times. Long visits to therapist, there are some actions you can take. Okay, so let's assume that the thing that you told me that already works for you is, if you can get up and be really busy right away, that you can offset this to a degree. It's not perfect, but it works somewhat. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, and now I want to know, by the end of the day, are you better than you are when you first get up in the morning? Are you feeling okay at least at the end of the day, typically?
Well, I feel okay, but I don't feel like I feel like I'm so under the gun or behind that I would no. That's the answer. That is a no answer.
Okay, so
I can work and keep my mind off it, but it's there. It doesn't go away. It goes away if I can keep myself busy, because then I can focus on the task at hand in front of me. But when it's done, I'm still not enough, and things aren't going to be okay, and it's scary. So
on the mornings that maybe you are busy with things, is there any themes that run through those mornings? Is there anything that that might keep you busy that you can lock onto and maybe see if you can plan for the night before? Anything in your own past history that has worked that you might try and build on at all?
Um, I can't say that. Oh, yes. No, I don't have a model.
Okay. So you don't have anything that you could lock onto and say, you know what, if every morning I got up and I did this first, and then I did this second, and I did this third, and I did this fourth, and within the...
No way. There's just no way. Nothing that I could write down and do this, and then this, nothing.
So what you do know is you need to be busy in order not to feel this way. That works. So rather than try to look for...
I'm borderline ready to take medication. I've taken medication in the past, but I'm like, I don't think it's medication as much as it's some kind of like program that I just can't get past my beliefs, and I'm scared. And so it's running me around. And I really didn't expect to get you and have it go this far. But
here's what I mean. I can't fix this for you per se, but what I can do is say, here's a strategy that's a possibility for making you feel like you're feeling good in the morning, because the only thing that you told me that makes you feel good in the morning is when you're busy. That's the only thing we got to work with, right?
Yep.
So then the plan is, before you go to bed every night, is to have a plan that you execute every day as best you can, that's going to ensure that when you wake up, you're busy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I can try that. Yeah, I can do that.
But you see why that has a chance at least of working?
Yeah, just get up and right away get out of bed before my mind starts talking to me and do something.
But have that plan at night, because when you get up in the morning, the anxiety is too great for you to focus on the plan. That's why I asked you if you can establish some kind of routine. I don't know what it is for you, because I don't know you well enough. I don't know if it's going for a walk. I don't know if it's paying attention to paying bills. I don't know if it's doing something where you want to read something or catch up on something at work. I can't give you exactly what you need to be doing, but you don't want to pick things that you're going to not want to do when you wake up. You want to pick something that feels like I enjoy this anyway. And I know if I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is a few things that I know I'm going to enjoy, and I get them done, that's going to help offset some of the anxiety. And if I get a routine that's working every week, all week long, I'm not going to be perfect. Some mornings, the anxiety is just going to overwhelm me, and I get that, but I'm going to just let that pass and not criticize myself, because I don't want to keep reinforcing the message I'm not worthy. I want to let go of that, and I want to know that every morning that I do get this right, I want to just look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, that worked. I'm going to try it again, see if it works tomorrow. I'm going to keep seeing how many days a week I can get it to work. And at least you got a plan, Al, that is based on the only thing we know that works for you, which is to keep busy. But if you can focus on trying before you go to bed at night, every night, I don't know, pick a regular time that you sit down. Maybe it's before you get too tired. I don't know what that is for you, whether you're a late night person or go to bed early. But whatever time of the day that makes sense, fix that on your calendar. That I'm going to sit down and I'm going to plan the first 3 or 4 things I'm going to do tomorrow morning. So when I wake up, there's no anxiety because I'm focused. I know what I need to do. It's almost like you want to be outside of yourself. You want to pretend you're somebody else, and you got this contract that you're working on. And the contract in the past, when it's for somebody else, you get that. That works fine for you. At least that's what you said. And you want to pretend you're like a client for yourself in this. And that you want to just say, look, I'm my client in this. I'm going to put down what I need to get done tomorrow morning. Here's the 3 things I'm going to work on. It's going to take me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get them done. And at the end of that, I'm going to smile and say, hey, you know what? I got a few things done today. I'm still feeling a little anxious, but not the way I normally feel when I wake up and I don't have something for somebody else.
All right. Thank you. I will try that.
Okay. Good luck, Al.
When are you on again?
I'm on the first and second Wednesdays of the month, 12 to 1 p.m. on WPKN.
Okay. I'll touch base with you again. Thank you for your time.
You betcha. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, that's how it works. It's the idea that you want to try and look at how are you feeling? How do you want to feel? Is there a strategy that you can build on? That? If I just try to say, like, go in front of the mirror and say these positive things to yourself, which is what, by the way, a lot of people would say who are counselors and coaches. They just want to, self-affirmation, raise your self-esteem. But if I can find something that works for you already, which for Al it was doing some kind of work for somebody else, seems to keep him focused, and that anxiety goes away. And so can you pretend when you first wake up that you're somebody else and doing something for you, but you plan it the night before? Because the anxiety will be too strong when you first get up to try and do this. So if you can get really effective at planning the night before, you got a chance of making a difference without medication, I think. Good luck, Al, with that, and thanks for the call. Anybody else? Again, the number is 203-336-9756. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. This is Chuck Wolf. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to?
Marta.
Did you say Martha?
Marta.
Marta. Hi, Marta.
Hi. I just want to say that previous call that you just had so spoke to me as well. And it was good to hear your advice again. And I do find when I plan things the night before, sometimes that is helpful for me to get focused right away, whether it's something I have to do in the house or get out to a yoga class or whatever it is to get going, kind of says like what you just said about you're speaking, how did you put it, to yourself or outside of yourself?
Yeah, it's sort of like an out-of-body experience, I guess, Marta, where it's like if I was talking to myself, Chuck, I know you can do this. I've seen you do this before. I know this is actually a strength of yours, and I'd like you to focus. It's kind of like you're talking to yourself. It's a little strange, but it's actually a strategy that changes the dynamic of what's going on in your head, and it allows you to sort of be like you were helping a friend on you're helping yourself.
Absolutely, and it is kind of strange, but it does seem to work sometimes.
Yes, it does. It's what I find is I'm very eclectic in the way I try to help people, and not everything works for everybody, but lots of different things work for people. So sometimes you try and find something that you think that at least intuitively jumps out at me that says maybe this would work for this person right now, right here. So I'm glad you called in, Marta, because Al was making the point, and hopefully Al, you're still listening, and you reinforced that. He said I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people out there who are experiencing this. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much. I just feel so much better hearing you and hearing the gentleman, and I feel better for that, too.
Well, I want to thank you for reinforcing the idea, though, that, planning something the night before is helpful around this. Thanks a lot for sharing that. That's the idea. This is a community radio station. So sometimes it's really nice that other people are being supportive of one another when they listen to a phone call like that. Thanks a lot for the call, Marta. Appreciate it.
I like your show a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Okay,
You're
bye-bye.
welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, so you're listening to Chuck Wolf. Again, this is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I want to thank Al and Marta for calling in. And if you've got something on your mind you want to share, the number is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I'll give you a moment. Hi, this is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann. How you doing?
Okay. I was just thinking, you said without using medication. My sister thinks that I should maybe take some ADHD medication. But I know so many, I've heard so many stories about that going very badly. I'm kind of scared. Do you think that medication is the best way to get focus and get control of your life, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I think medication is a real provides some real assistance to people that need it. I also think that sometimes medication is a temporary fix, and you don't need to stay on it forever. But without working with a professional, typically a psychiatrist, actually on medication for dealing with those kinds of things, it's really kind of hard to advise. But what I do think makes a lot of sense is to explore whatever options you have before going on medication, because there are some risks with medication. It isn't a perfect solution, but for some people, it's a huge benefit. So I'm not down on medication, but I also think if you can figure out how to do something without it, you're better off.
What What other types of things have you heard about?
Well, if you're thinking about focus, I mean, that's one of the troubles that you're having.
Right.
So, without being, going too general into what else you could do to do something about attention deficit, can you tell me a little bit about the problems you're having with focus? Because that helps me to help you.
Like trying to get a routine to, get the kids going better and get the kids doing what they're supposed to do, and me doing the housework, keeping up with that better, and like that. Like the kids go off the rails and they distract me from housework, so then the house goes off the rails. Those kinds of chain reactions.
Okay, so something enters into your life that takes you away from what it was that you were focused on, and now you're distracted, and it's hard to get back to it. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I don't know that that's unique. I'm just thinking of my own life that can happen pretty easily to me too. But I do get back to things eventually. It doesn't necessarily go off the rails, but it may be that I get distracted and do something else instead for a bit. So why is it so much of a problem for you, do you think? Because I don't think what you just said is abnormal at all, necessarily.
Well, I don't seem to... I'm never fast at anything. I'm always slow at everything. I don't seem to know how long stuff is going to take to actually get done, probably because it always takes me longer to do everything than it takes everybody else.
Okay. All right. Let me just ask you, Ann, your sister's advising that she thinks medication might be helpful. It might be. I'm not saying it wouldn't. But has she been saying that for a long time to you, or is this something recent that came up?
I think it came up because she knows somebody for whom it helped.
Oh, and who had some similar things going on to what's going on for you?
I suppose. I don't know this other person really.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just ask you, have you ever tried to go a little faster or to stay more focused? In other words, before I suggest anything to you, I want to just know, what have you already thought about doing and maybe had little to no success with? And is there anything you're thinking about now?
Well, like if I try to wash the dishes faster, then it always seems like either I drop them or I later discover that it's not all the way clean.
Sure. Okay. So if you try to, okay, let me just...
I make mistakes when I try to hurry, it seems like.
Yeah, so why is there a rush to do things? I mean, if I'm just trying to understand better. If you get things done correctly by doing them a little slower than maybe other people might do them, why is that a problem?
I run out of time. I don't get everything done.
Ah, okay. So you're not good at time management because you underestimate how much time things are going to take you? Is that part of it?
I think it has to be at least part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget a component of it. Maybe, like trying to get the kids to bed. It's like, okay, well... it's how long has it been that I'm finally starting to say, okay, well, I can't let the kids watch TV until 9 and then get them to start their bedtime routine and then read them a story and expect to get to bed before 11 o'clock because it just takes, all those steps just take too much time.
All right, so...
So I'm finally figuring out, okay, well, maybe if I get the TV turned off before 8:30, maybe we'll get there. But then, of course, the kids are used to watching TV till later, so there's friction there trying to get them to change their routine. So that's very hard and very distracting. And
yeah,
you slide
Okay, so this isn't just about focus. Then this is broader than focus to me. This is more about setting some boundaries, setting some guidelines, having people perform the way you want them to perform. I mean, one of the things that I have grandchildren, and one set of grandchildren. My daughter and her husband are very consistent about bedtime. Now it's changed a little bit now as their children are getting older. But initially what they did was they set a bedtime. They started very early. They had dinner early. I mean, much earlier than we normally did, but like at 5 o'clock or something. And then they had certain steps that every night were repeated. So the kids knew there was an expectation. And then right before bedtime happened, they would say, okay, let's say you have screen time. The kids like to be on the, video games or something, or Kindle reading, or whatever it might be. But they have 5-minute warning. And then she sets a buzzer, either a digital or a timer on an analog clock or something. But, the buzzer goes off, the kids hear it, they know the time's up. So, so there's a warning. And then they have the routine of brushing their teeth and getting into their pajamas and, and having a bedtime story. And it's all structured, and it's the same night after night after night. So there's really no argument, because if it's changing all the time, the kids think that they can work, they can challenge it. And because you're different every night, they don't know what to expect, but they know if they challenge you long enough, they'll get to stay up later. So part of that is just having a routine that you stick to that's consistent, and everybody knows there is no change in this, except maybe for holidays or just very special occasions or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It
just sounds very difficult, when you've got activities some nights but not others. Husband comes home late some nights but not others, and he and I have finally come to the conclusion that I'm just going to have to feed them dinner without him, because I can't. That's another, just one more factor that I can't manage.
Right.
So that's a change that we're working on making right now.
Okay, so you're sort of like looking at this, trying to figure this out, and that's fine. And I mean, everybody's life is different and unique in certain ways. And I love the idea of a family having dinner together, and I love the idea of waiting for your husband to come home. But I don't love the idea of every night it's different in terms of helping you to deal with what you got going on, right?
Right.
So
I think that's part of it, yeah.
So I think that you and your husband need to make some agreements about, and the kids too. I mean, just you can involve, I don't know how old your kids are, but involve everybody. Just say, look, there's some changes coming so that we get on top of this and do this right. And here's what we're thinking about, and you can talk with the kids about it. And we love it when Dad can come home and he could be here for dinner, but he can't always be. So some nights we're gonna start dinner at the same time. And if Dad can make it, that's great. Otherwise, Dad's going to have to find some other time to be with you at a different day to make up, because he can't be here at the time we need to have dinner. But I mean, I would kind of walk through all that together. The other thing that I would suggest that might be helpful to you, Ann, is to take some time during the day, and for the things that you seem to take longer than you normally expect to each time you do them, is write down how long you think something should take, and then see how long it takes you, so that you have a more realistic estimate of when I say I'm going to do the dishes after dinner, and I think it's only going to take me 10 minutes, and it takes me 25, that it's going to take you 25 pretty regular. I mean, just for you in your own head. So, and by the way, rushing them, I mean, yeah, maybe somebody could do them faster. I mean, one of my daughters does the dishes really fast in our house, and we have to do them over. So when she's visiting. So that's not necessarily better or faster if they're not cleaned at the end. So I really do think that some of these things, I don't think these are medication issues, Ann. Just from listening to you, I think these are getting a routine that's comfortable, that works for you, trying to get better handle on how much time things really do take. If you notice certain things keep taking you a long time and you wonder why they take you longer than others, well, maybe you want to be sure they're clean and other people don't care so much. And maybe some things just take you longer because you're not quite as quick as some others might be in understanding something or in getting something done, that somebody else just has a real ability to move faster than you. I mean, just think about people in races and running races. everybody wants to win, but some people are faster than others, and those are going to be the winners. Not everybody's as fast as everybody else in anything. And I wouldn't feel bad about that. I just try and understand, okay, what are my strengths? What are my limitations? And just understand who you are, accept it as it is, make some changes in your life that feel like it's giving me more of a routine. I feel more comfortable, and you'll feel more like you're winning rather than how you sound. You sort of sound like you're losing a little bit. And I want you to feel like you're winning during the day.
Do you feel that way? Yep.
Yeah. So maybe the feeling for you is I want to feel like I'm winning the day-to-day battle of being alive here. And winning means just having a routine that makes sense, managing your time more realistically, not feeling upset that you can't do some things faster even though you think you should. And then I think life will be a little better for you just by gaining some confidence from that.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yep. Work harder on more routines.
Yeah, I think it's important that, but not just by yourself, Ann. I mean, get your husband and the kids involved. You know, I mean, do it as a family. So everybody's supporting not just you, but the family as a structure.
But the kids don't want the routines because they know they get that more TV.
Oh, so here's a way to ask the question. The question isn't, are we going to have routines? The question is, we're going to have routines, kids. I want your help in figuring out what those are going to be. In other words, the only choice they have is in trying to structure the routine so it makes sense to them, so they feel some involvement with it. By the way, they'll fight you even if they're part of the conversation. And you and your husband, kids are supposed to test boundaries, but the best way we help our children is to make sure that those boundaries are solid so that they can form boundaries in their own life later on, and that helps them to avoid all the temptations of getting involved with, the things that harm them. By the parents setting boundaries, it's a critical skill set for kids to learn. And so I would say that's a really important thing for you to focus on, but not by yourself. You're not alone in this. They need to be a part of it, and your husband needs to be a part of it.
All right. So for them focusing on participating in the choice of how to build the routine.
Exactly. There are going to be routines. That's the mandate, and I'm going to allow you some input into what those routines look like. That's the only choice they have is helping you sort of figure out what the routines are going to be, and they'll actually have fun with it. They'll have fun with it. They'll be very upset when you try to enforce them, by the way, because they haven't had them. But that's a real important battle to fight and to win with your kids, because it's not just winning for you; it's winning for them too when you do this.
Okay, thanks.
You betcha. Thanks for the call, Ann. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, folks, you've been listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And this is Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to WPKN 89.5 FM, serving Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties in Connecticut and Suffolk County in New York, as well as communities around the world via podcast and streaming at WPKN.org. So, again, if you've got something, I've got a little bit of time left, and I'm certainly delighted to get your phone calls. The number to call is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I'll give you a moment. So at the moment, there are no callers. But, I've got to believe that when we get callers, usually there's a lot of people who want to call because they get kind of inspired. If somebody else's problem got solved, maybe I can call into this fella, Chuck Wolf, and see if I can get some help from me. And I've got just about 7 minutes left, so I can still help somebody. But you're going to have to call right now. If you got something, don't wait. Although I will be back next week, by the way. Again, I'm here the first and second Wednesdays of each month, 12 to 1 p.m., the community radio station and the community hour. So, again, the number 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Well, at the moment, I don't have any callers, so I don't want to raise a topic that's very controversial because, no point, because I don't want callers calling in after I'm gone. But what I will talk about, because I'm kind of excited about it, is this is the time for playoffs for the baseball season. And for those of you who can see me, I am wearing my new Jimmy Fund-oriented Boston Red Sox baseball cap today. Well, there was a setting in one of the games we went to recently, my wife and I, where they were set up to try and raise money for the Jimmy Fund, and the Red Sox do a great job every year. The Jimmy Fund is dedicated to helping cure cancer in kids, and it's a wonderful charity, and we've been contributors for a lot of years. And so one of the things you could do is make a contribution and buy a baseball cap, and this was a particularly nice one. And I love the idea of not only advertising the B for the baseball and the Red Sox, but also having the little slogan on the side the little banner, if you will, on the hat that says Jimmy Fund, and encouraging others to just think about maybe making a contribution there. So it is baseball season. The Red Sox have had an incredible year. It's the most wins ever, 108 wins in the season. They've never done that before, although years ago it was a shorter baseball schedule, and so one team was competitive. But I do have a phone caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, Chuck. My name is Sarah.
Pardon me?
Sarah.
Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
I have a question about, a person I live with.
Okay.
And me.
Sure.
The person I live with is my mother, and she lets me live there rent-free, which is super nice of her, and I'm very appreciative. But the problem is that she's kind of a hoarder, and it's been my role throughout life to walk the line of being a daughter, helping her with this issue, and also not enabling.
Let me just say that's a tough line you're walking, but go ahead. Yeah.
Lately, the house is getting a little out of control, and I want to manage it before winter comes, because then it's a lot harder to clean with the windows open and get fresh air in. And to top it all off, I have serious allergies.
Okay.
Now, could you recommend any mechanisms or methods in which to maybe speed up the process in the next couple of weeks without seeming ungrateful, or her getting angry, and when she gets angry, her response is for me to pay for a cleaning lady, which I'm open with doing, but it doesn't solve the clutter issue, and the clutter holds most of the dust.
Sure.
And she doesn't want me to declutter without her, but it's very hard to say no to. She gets to keep all of the stuff, and I just have to clean it up because of the allergies. So if there's any way you could comment on that.
Okay. Well, because you're calling a little late, maybe we could talk next week. But let me just say a couple things to you, Sarah, just to try and be a bit helpful. First of all, hoarding is there's no easy answers, and I'm sure if you've been around this for a long time and you've checked into trying to find out how do people deal with hoarders, I wish there was an easy fix. There isn't, and do you know that already, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the only thing you can ask yourself is, and these are the questions, and again, if I had more time, I'd try to explore them with you, and you're welcome to call next week, but you can also think about them over the week. One is, what is it that she gets feeling-wise from collecting things? In other words, what's the feeling that hoarders get when they bring stuff in and they pile it because they're afraid to let go? There's something that's keeping them from letting go. And so there's a feeling of security somehow that comes from, not losing anything that they're attached to. So that's sort of the feeling she has. Now, how do you want her to feel? You'd like her to feel secure without the need to, be surrounded by all these items. You'd like her to feel secure without the need to be surrounded by items. And that's a giant request for hoarders to change how they live. To go from that to one to the other. So what I would say to you is that given your mom's history in this stuff, and given your own history with this, I would explore with her a couple things. Mom, I know that this gives you great satisfaction to collect all these things. I understand that. I also know that it's becoming a problem because, it's becoming a little hard to move. And also, I have an allergy issue. And so one of the great things for me is for you to think about what things are most precious to you, and let's kind of make a list of those. And then let's look at the things that aren't so precious and see if there's any way we might give those to somebody else that would appreciate them. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I don't know if there's books or things like that might be given to a library. One of the things that happened recently was my wife and I had a bedspread that had come from my mother. Mm-hmm. And my mother's passed away, and we'd had this now for 10 years, and my wife wanted to change it. And it was really hard to let go of it because it was my mom's. And yet I knew it wasn't nice anymore. So it was time to let it go. So we took it over to a charity, and in that charity there was a woman who was just getting some things from the charity for her home. Her husband had divorced her, left her with her kids, and we walked in with this bedspread, and she said, "Is that something I could have?" And yeah, I mean, we're giving it away. And so this woman took it, and she was so thankful. And all of a sudden, it made me feel like, my mom's bedspread went to somebody else who needed it. How great was that? And so if there's some way to communicate with your mom that maybe some of the things she's collected could be given to others where they would be really appreciated, and she didn't really need to have so much, is there some way we could start thinking about what things we want to give away into home and how? Maybe that's a strategy that might work for you.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Good luck with it. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye now. See you next week, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.